Hello and welcome to the Red 78 on Off the Ball, a Munster podcast for Munster fans. My name is Rory O'Hagan, joined by Munster legends Alan Quinlan and Fiona Hayes to look back at what was a very impressive win over Stade Francais as the Reds get their Champions Cup campaign off to a winning start. And the injury list is decreasing as we prepare to go to Castres this weekend. So plenty to discuss on this week's episode of the Red 78. Fiona, Alan, how are you guys? Good to see you as always.
Good, Rory, good. I had a good all weekend. I was up at the match on Saturday, and then I had a great idea to sneak upstairs. Jane Clossy got me into the all. Quinny wasn't there now. All the old legends of the game were meeting above up at the match, so there was some great characters. So I was sitting with Claude and Mick Galway, and I got all the goss on Quinny. Now I won't say it on air, but
Oh
he gave me
Lord.
lots of stories.
Yeah, Quinny wasn't there because he's a young legend, you see.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, no, there was. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, but the result was good anyway in the match,
Yeah.
and bit of a reunion on Saturday night. But yeah, I'm glad. I won't ask you any of the stories, and they're all lies probably anyway.
Mostly nice. Mostly
Add
nice.
bits anyway, but it was a good start for Munster anyway, which was important.
Yeah, it certainly was. Fiona, you mentioned you were there. I mean, we got a text in to say that the crowd wasn't great. How was it where you were looking?
No, I don't know about that. I thought the atmosphere was brilliant. It wasn't fully sold out, so it wasn't your usual packed European
Yeah.
game. But even so I went upstairs. I stayed outside till maybe about 50 minutes, and then I went up for the last 30. But I thought the atmosphere was brilliant. You know, it reflected the game, Rory, as well. I was sitting amongst a load of diehard Munster fans in the stand, and the crack, and even the two red cards. It just brought around the crowd. There was just moments throughout the game that kept the crowd in it. And I thought the atmosphere, slow build up to start, but I thought once the game kicked off, people were excited what they were seeing in front of them. So, yes, it wasn't the usual packed full house, but there was a lot of people there, and there was certainly a lot of roaring. And I've been up at a couple of games up in the Aviva with Ireland, and certainly a definite different buzz
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah, all right. That was one of the texts that we've got in. We've got plenty more comments, Fiona, and a lot of positivity this week, which is good to see.
Yeah, delighted with all the positive stuff coming in. So thanks a million for that. And I'll read out a few of them here. Pat said, line out performed, good bonus point win, hopefully another 5 points. Daly try was a cracker. Bueller, strong game. Abrams looking always looked busy, and nice to see Crowley back. Great team performance. John Carroll has the stat game shows how vital a line out specialists like Pete is in any team. Ireland's line out has struggled without one, and when he doesn't play, what a performance he gave for the jersey. Karen O'Halloran, what a match. Munster played really, really well. Casey played unbelievable. Can't believe Baptiste should have been suspended for doing the Undertaker move on poor Casey. Lucky Peter O'Mahony's quick thinking saved him from a serious injury. Crazy two red cards. Munster really rattled him. Peter Dooley, I thought Stad were a very average team. They played a very narrow game, and any decent team who play a wider game would have beaten Munster. What worried me is how much we went to sleep after the two red cards. I think we'll do well to get out of this group. And then, sorry, last one, we'll say, Joe, nice win. We'll finish on a positive. Nice win after a disappointing few weeks, and the line out in scrum was much to prove. Stand up and fight.
Yeah, thanks for all those comments. Plenty to discuss coming off the back of those comments. But first off, Connie, let's talk about the Munster performance. And 5 tries, bonus point, winning start. You couldn't ask for much more than that.
No, it was a really good performance. I think Fiona mentioned it there, and some of the messages coming in have referenced how Munster lost their way a little bit after the red cards, and it can happen. Stade were galvanised. They get the try with 13 men. So, in an ideal world, you'd have loved to have Munster to kick on and get to 50 points or something like that and score a lot more tries. But credit to Stade, they didn't give up. But I think Munster are really good in the basics stuff that we're talking about for a long time now, probably certainly this season and a good bit of last season. And I know injuries have hampered the performance around the set piece. But I just think back to that Bayonne game last year. the first game in Thomond Park in the European Cup, and you know, I just think they struggle at scrum time, they struggle at line out, and has been a theme of the games where Munster have lost in the last year. So to get 100% in the scrum and the line out, again, you can nitpick this and say the opposition maybe their attitude and their application wasn't the best, and it was a poor Stade performance, and they were disjointed and all that, and a lot of changes in the team selection for them. But they still had a lot of power and big, strong, physical players up front in particular. So um, yeah, it's really good to see. And we've spoken about Ireland and some of their issues around the line out for any team. I think if you can get close to 100%, you have a chance to launch your attack, and you can do lots of things. And the same with the scrum. If you've got that right, you can play. And this team, we've spoken about their strength in attack and the way they want to play and they can't do that if you've no platform. So that was a really positive part of the game, to have the set piece firing pretty well. I thought Evan O'Connell was superb, and I know he goes off for Tyburn. What a player to bring on! But
Yeah.
he's just seamlessly kind of transitioned in there, and I think when we spoke about him last week, he's a really intelligent line out forward as well. So lots of positives, I think. Tacker Abrahams, every time he touches the ball, looks really dangerous. Shane Daly's try was superb. So starting to get a little bit of confidence maybe, and um, hopefully with some of the players coming back, Dave Kilcoyne, Ollie Yeager back in the mix this week. I know Conor Murray is out, but the more players they get back in the next period of time, I think, and if they can grow in confidence and get that platform up front, well, then they can cause teams problems. But I wouldn't get too carried away,
No.
obviously, because the red cards played a part probably in the game being over essentially when they happened, particularly the second one. Stade have no way back. But I thought up to that point, Munster were really efficient, aggressive, and they tried to bring pace and tempo in the game, and far less mistakes. They looked the dominant team. They looked like a team who brought aggression and intensity, which was really important. And yes, of course, there's plenty of mistakes, and probably the turnovers lost. Some of them would probably be, frustrating. But overall, I think it was a really decent performance from Munster, and a positive start to Europe.
Yeah, just what the doctor ordered, Fiona Hayes. What was the feeling like, I suppose, of Munster fans that you were speaking to before the game and then afterwards? I'd imagine they were really happy with the performance.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of the chat beforehand was, yes, they saw improvement with the Lions game. Can they kick off again with Stade? Now, in saying that, we were chatting last week, I suppose, about what type of team they were going to send over, and it probably wasn't their strongest team. But as Quinny said, that happened last season, and we had a loss as well. So that's not always a good thing. There's always some young guys trying to break through. But I felt like people were, yes, they were thinking Munster had a good chance, but I suppose we didn't know what to expect coming off the back of the South African trip, having the whole management changed up. So in that, and yes, that step forward for the Lions game, I thought it was another joint step forward for the team as well. Watching, yes, there was red cards, but the attack play at times was absolutely brilliant to watch. When we're on here, I think we're talking sometimes about lineouts, and it's the tiniest of things. It's a slight overthrow. It's a lack of movement. The percentages were never up at 100. We've 100% scrum, 100% line out, and therefore I think the launch plays were just exciting for Munster. They wanted to go wide. They were stretching Stade's defence. Casey and Crowley have come back as well, and they've upped at another level. So it was after the game and chatting to people. I think yes, it was a team performance,
Yeah.
but seeing some of the individual performances out there, I was chatting with Quinny as well beforehand. The back row were absolutely immense. We're on here sometimes and we're chatting about one player but just all three players I thought were absolutely outstanding. Either the three of them could have got player of the game. The work rate, Ken Dillon is someone who's rising up again after coming home from Irish camp. There's now huge competition. You have Evan O'Connell start, and he was superb. So I think there's a lot of positives. Yes, it wasn't I suppose the hardest team to play, 2 red cards, 13. But I know even as a coach, sometimes you can just switch off when you kick out a lead like that. Things don't go wrong. And it was just that slight little thing down the blind for that try. Couple of missed tackles. Archer kind of overjumped it. So look, these things can happen, but for this Munster team to finish on a try as well, and just get up the pitch with just individual brilliances, the bench came on, Paddy Patterson. So I think it's exciting times because we've seen a lot from the attack. But in those first opening stages as well, Rory, I thought the defence was super in getting up off the line. They were up, they were in their face, they were hungry, but the bounce up off the floor, the ability to get up, get back on the line, pressure the opposition in attack, that was really good to see as well.
Yeah, a lot of positives to take from this game. But Quinn, as you said, like the red cards certainly like changed the game. The second one in particular, and let's talk about that one first, Quinn, because that was an absolute horror tackle from Elise Pesenti on Craig Casey. And were it not for the quick thinking of Peter O'Mahony to drag Pesenti like to the side to make sure that Casey doesn't land in his head, that could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, you just wonder what he's thinking there.
Yeah.
I think everyone was pretty shocked, and anyone in rugby in general watching that would be baffled by the actions of turning a player completely upside down. Luckily, he didn't come down on his head or his neck, but it's without doubt an immediate red card. So it's crazy, and I think he looked a bit frustrated and felt a little harshly treated, which again would baffle the onlooker. But it was a crazy decision, and it cost his team. And Paul Gustard, I think, would have been incredibly frustrated with both actions. I think the first one on Peter O'Mahony is, I can feel a little bit for the player. He's trying to get that right arm. It's a risky thing when you swing the arm in any way. Even if a player is dipping, when you have a striking motion like that, you're in risky territory. But that's one there's a certain sense of unfortunate timing, all that kind of stuff. I'm not downplaying that one, but the second one, you think it's just downright stupidity, and you just cannot do that to a player. So thankfully he was okay, Craig Casey, and yeah, Peter intervened, and then he intervened in a bit of a scuffle, and then that was the nature of the day. And we know his temperament, and he's not one to take a backward step. So look, it was a very unfortunate one, and I think he's in a spot of bother with that. Regarding suspension wise, that he could get a hefty one for that, because it's one of those ones, as I said, and everybody can see and understand, you just cannot turn a player up that far. And again, luckily, it could have been a lot worse. He didn't come down on his neck or his head, but absolute stupidity, because even though we're talking about a disjointed Stade team, Munster were in control up to that point, even the control for the first red card. They kept the scoreboard moving, ticking over, playing in the right areas, real intent in their carries, all that kind of stuff. And, Stade just kind of, it evaporated any chance of them getting anything out of the game. I know out of pure desperation, obviously, when they were down to 13 men, they had some moments and could have scored another try. Munster definitely sat back a little bit, but I think that's probably a bit of a learning curve as well. How do you become a ruthless team? But Munster can't just suddenly become that ruthless kind of killer instinct when they're on this kind of topsy-turvy start to the season. So again, I think they'll look at that and probably analyze it with the coach and say, where was the space? Did we utilize it? Did we exploit the 13 men? Munster didn't. But look, it doesn't really matter at that stage. The bonus point win is secured. I just think maybe going forward, if a team is even reduced to 14, and even back when I played, we would always train and practice if a team is reduced a player, and everybody does that. And sometimes you forget it on certain weeks, but it's about kind of reiterating that point. If an opposition team goes down, how can we exploit some space? Have we got some strike plays that we use? All that kind of stuff. And funny enough, Munster didn't really look like, you know, having the same control when they had two extra players in the field. But yeah, it was still a really positive day, and I agree with Fiona at the start. It's European games are different. Obviously it's not a full house, but it's a really positive start for them. If they can get something now in Castres and get a result there, well, then they're halfway there to qualifying for knockout stages. God only knows, I know from my own experience, and we'll talk a bit about that at the end. Going to Castres is a bit of a lottery at times. You just don't know, but they could only do what they did. And it's points difference is not gonna. It could come into play, but they had a dominant bonus point win.
All right, Craig Casey, look, thankfully saw the funny side of it. He posted up on Instagram to say that he was still a WWE champ and posted up a picture of The Undertaker tombstoning Rey Mysterio. So at least he saw the funny side of it, but it could have been a lot worse, as I mentioned, were it not for Peter Mahoney's quick thinking. But Fiona, Shane Daly, 100 appearances now for Munster, and what a try he scored the other night.
Yeah, he topped it off in style. It really got everyone around excited watching. It's very easy to say you can just kick through the ball, but that second kick, it was almost like he curled his foot around. He knew the bounce of it. He had to control it so it wouldn't go dead. And even around that, he was just busy in the game. He's someone that's the more games he's getting under his belt, he seems to be getting better and better. And it's almost, yes, it's 100 appearances, but he comes up with big moments in games, and that's what you want from anyone in your back three. So he seems to be excelling as well in this, in this run, I suppose, of him getting starts. Yes, he was in 15. He can play wing as well, but I suppose there's that argument. Would you? Is it wing? Is it 15? If Abrams comes in, everyone's fit. I presume, Quinny, you'd agree you would be starting Shane Daly if with the way he's playing, if everyone is injury free, because Abrams obviously is straight in there at the minute with his form, and you've got Calvin come back from Ireland, so it is one, I suppose, to look at as well.
Yeah, they have a little bit of depth there, which is something that again they haven't had that luxury, and being able to rotate that back four, that back three into 4 or 5 players. I think Liam Coombs is back playing as well, which is a boost for them. Well, if you take the 4 that are kind of rotating there, it's very hard to
I know
tackle Abrams, because I just think with what Abrahams can do as regards to the line breaks and the footwork, the centres are solid. Nankivell and Tom Farrell, there's strength and power there, and I just think it's hard to leave Abrams out. It's tough on Mike Haley because he's been very consistent for Munster in the last couple of seasons, and really good player. But again, it's a good complaint for the coaches to have.